Welcome to Marvel Maniac, an MCU after show. This is your host, Eric Cicada, aka Mr. Honest, back with episode 5 of Moon Knight, titled The Asylum. I think this season has been fantastic, very fun origin story for a character. In this episode, it goes pretty deep. We dig into Mark's psyche, trauma, there's some mythology, including a talking hippo with a very hard to remember name. So I don't have it up in my notes at the second, but this is a really kind of pivotal episode to Moon Knight, in my opinion. It answers questions that we've had from the beginning. It takes us to why Steven even exists, and it makes you question the reality in which Mark is going to leave this afterlife. And by the way, this episode also confirms afterlives, like on different dimensions, different planes, different kinds of afterlives. Like there's the Black Panther one, there's the Thor one. I can't think of the name of the place, the plane in the Black Panther, and the place that Lady Thor went at the end of Thor Love and Thunder. This introduces a big kind of section of the MCU, and I'm still processing a little bit that all these gods have avatars and they've been living in secret all this time. But it doesn't mean that the Moon Knight is probably the most the fighting version of one of their, like, I don't know if any of the gods send out other people to fight like superheroes, if you know what I mean. Like Khonshu. In this episode, we get to see the very literal beginning of Moon Knight, and we learn a little bit more about the situation Mark was in with Layla's dad, and it had to do with betrayal and mercenaries, and it was just basically Mark was on the bad end of a really dark situation, and he crawls into Khonshu's tomb, or is it his praying area? I don't know. He crawls to Khonshu's big giant statue. He's about to die. He's actually about to off himself in the show. I think this is a very complex episode, because we if you deal with mental health, there's a broad spectrum of things in this episode that can trigger you, or you could most likely relate to. Personally, dealing with my past, like I bury things, I disassociate. So if I try to face things, I can totally relate to this episode. And the Steven being the Mark's total way of dealing with the hardships of his life. Steven becomes this innocent character that lives, and Mark gets to hide and let Steven be. And it's just kind of such an amazing introspective look at why these characters are the way they are. It's also really interesting and fun the way that this episode is spread out. They're in an insane asylum, as we know from last episode, and the hippo is the one to guide them through the afterlife. We find out that this hospital is just a manifestation, but they are in an afterlife. And this manifestation has Dr. Harrow as Dr. Harrow. I mean, there's a Dr. Harrow. I think he's a great character, too. I think Ethan Hawke. If it's not Ethan Hawke, I'm sorry. I think he does so great at what he's doing. I like him as the villain. I'm not rhyming on purpose. I'm not Eminem, but there's some cool differences between the way Harrow interacts with Mark or Steven. Steven isn't freaking out this episode. He's actually seeking answers that Mark is trying to protect him from. Deep problems and like memories of a brother that Mark had, and they went into a cave, and his brother drowned in the cave, and Mark survived. And his mom, insanely abusive. What kind of mom is that? I mean, it's actually, I've never seen that. And the mom beats him as a kid, and Steven learns all this slowly through the episode by them going through all these time doors. This episode's touching a lot of things like trauma, loss, acceptance, guilt, disassociation, I think, to bring the mental health thing to the forefront is probably pretty wise. And I always want to say, like, if any of this in the show is like triggering you, or even better, ideally helping you see that I might have a few mental health issues. Personally, therapist was a life changer for me. Going to talk to doctors, going to talk about my mind. It's important how you feel. If you're sad, you should acknowledge why. If you're not having a great life, you can turn that life around just by talking to a therapist. Sometimes people don't even realize how helpful it is, and they put a bad stigma around it. But I just want to say, if you're dealing with anything, you can also email me, and I'm always there for someone in need. Like MarvelManiacPod@gmail.com. I'm not even kidding. But if this blows up, this podcast, I can't promise you. And ideally, I would want it to blow up. Who wouldn't? But I bite my tongue, literally bit my tongue while saying it. So I'm going to knock on some wood. Anyway, just an overall message about mental health here. I keep on almost saying whale, but it's another big animal, the hippo. Her name is Tawret. And she is guiding them through the Egyptian afterlife. And I think I must have already said that. However, they're trying to balance these scales. And these scales are like the same as on Harrow's tattoo that he uses on his arm. And if the scales don't balance when he touches somebody, he eliminates them. Very extreme. That's why somebody like this releasing a giant crocodile god, it just might not be in the best interest of anyone. So that's kind of like the motivation of getting out of this place in this episode for Mark, and for Steven. I'm saying in this episode, he's really wanted to walk through those doors and see what happened, because he remembers and is even manifesting that his mom isn't dead, which in fact we find out that she is. That freaks Steven out. And we get this just terribly sad story. The person I feel for most in this episode, I feel terrible for Mark, but I feel horrible for Mark's dad. Dealing with the death of his wife, horrible. And for years, his wife never accepted that the brother died, and blamed it all on Mark, literally, by taking it out on him with physical violence. And this is really hard, and this is the moment that, Steven's freaking out a little bit, and Mark's like, you're supposed to know that you're supposed to live a nice life, and, I don't want you to know about any of this. And ironically, it's us dealing with our inner demons. It's a great metaphor for dealing with our inner demons. I feel like I sound like Harold right now. It's like, you must I can't do an impression. I'm going to stop. I think it's really symbolic that at the end, everything's been confronted. We even see the moment from when Mark was a kid. His mom was trying to bang the door down, and he literally, in the moment Steven was created. I don't know where he got his little British accent from, but I think we see at one point a movie poster. That's literally where he got his name, Steven. I actually just feel for this kid, and I understand the splitting of the personalities. I always wonder in the back of my head, is it really that like that though? Is it really possible to have a whole different personality? I believe it, but I don't know how many people would fake it, and you know what I mean? It's very complex. It's a complex situation. But the whole episode unveiling these things is making Mark face these things as well. Not what he doesn't want to, but he is facing them. He is reliving them. And by the end, he's explaining to his counterpart, who is technically a giant metaphor for a coping mechanism, explains to him what happened and why, and shows Mark's maturity on the topic, and how Mark actually grew as a person. But he grew as a person by creating Steven, which wasn't maybe even intentional, but that's the way he had to cope with it. That's the situation he was in when he was a kid. He can't control that. And something about that whole family aspect, it really it hits home. My family's not torn apart. Everyone's all together still, but it makes me sad to think about that. And I think that they did a good job of bringing us around Mark's memories, and we finally get to see the moment where Khonshu had him take his vow as Moon Knight. he makes him take a vow, and he's about to die, but instead he becomes the hand and will of Khonshu's vengeance, which is sick. Marvel Rivals is a sponsor of today's episode. No, it's not, but they will be one day. If you guys all go play it and just talk about Marvel Maniac to your people you're playing it with. If they're not Marvel fans, bring them in. Bring them into the MCU. Bring them into the podcast. And let's maybe one day do like a Twitch viewer night or something like that, where we play games on like a Twitch stream. It's down the road idea. I don't know where this game's gonna go, but I am a big Fortnite player, and when I saw Marvel Rivals on the Uprising, when Overwatch was one of my biggest games for years, and it's basically Overwatch with Marvel characters, I think Fortnite's not getting dethroned, but it's sitting on a throne next to this game already. Very exciting. If you haven't heard of it, Marvel Rivals, this is not a sponsor, but it's a really fun Marvel game. The characters, some of them are really beefy, like the Punisher, like the strongest, most beefiest Punisher you can imagine. But all the characters have different personalities and great interactions, and I just would recommend you go try it out. It's a little like mini advertisement towards the end here, for what I'm interested in, at least as a big Marvel fan. Moon Knight is in the game, and he's a really powerful character. It takes a little harder to master him, but he's fun to play. Seeing Khonshu and Moon Knight in that one scene really gets me a different kind of hype for the finale we're coming up to. It's the second to last episode already. Unbelievable, and it's been a fun show. But I'm excited for that showdown. You know, they always got to go out with a blast in most Marvel series. I mean, even Agatha all along got a bigger, like, type of big fight type scene at the end. I love that. I love it. Love it. But this was a big episode in terms of Moon Knight's character, who Mark is on the inside, and what does Steven represent? It is an escape, a disassociation, and Steven gets bumped off the boat because they're being attacked by sand creatures because they're not worthy. The scales aren't balanced. Steven falls off the boat. The scales balance. Everything turns to golden fields of wheat and a golden sky, and it's the thing that balances the scales and brings Mark on his way back to actually living again, but seemingly without Steven, who is a coping mechanism, but through the years, easy to imagine, now that they're actually getting to know each other, it's weird, but it's, in a way, it's just amazing. Steven has such an actual different personality than Mark. I have no idea how he's going to go on without him. He's had him his whole life. Even if he's a method of his coping, he can't bring him back because he became such a real person. And dealing with his issues is the reason that got him in that position where he fell off the boat and everything turns golden. I find that kind of beautiful and sad. Dealing with our demons, though, it will take the weight off your back. Talk to someone about something you're going through. It'll pull weight off your shoulders. Guilt and resentment and all this sorts of stuff. You don't want to look directly in the eye. And I just want to let you know you can write it down, start a journal, do anything to get these thoughts out of your head, and then you can kind of reflect on them. I just this is a big episode. I think I'm very proud of this show. I'm very proud of Disney, and I know it doesn't have the agenda of like mental health. It's just literally the character, and I'm so stoked to have Moon Knight in the MCU. So stoked. Seeing him in What If Season 3, spoiler but not, go watch it. Not enough people appreciate it. And I have after shows for every episode. You can go listen to them. They were fun to record day by day throughout the Christmas holiday. And so that's kind of where we're going to be leaving things too. I've seen the series before. I have glimpses in my memory of what happens. I'd rather not even think about it and almost go in with a fresh start, a fresh mind. So I'm not going to talk too much about that. I'm just looking forward to talking about the finale with you. And I feel kind of excited that I'm not waiting week to week. So this is going to be, we're going to finish this show 3 episodes in a row. And for anyone not really wanting to listen to What If, sorry about that gap there for that week. I'm trying new things every day. And so I'm always throwing something at the wall. If you got feedback, I'd love to hear it. MarvelManiacPod@gmail.com. Send me anything. If you want a promotion, if you're a promoter, please, love to hear from you. I'm totally missed my one promotion opportunity. I'm checking my email more currently now. And it'd be great to hear from you as a Marvel fan and hear your thoughts on Moon Knight or anything else happening in the MCU. Are you worried about Captain America Brave New World? Personally, I got a feeling in my heart that it's going to be a decent movie, okay? Even if it's not, we got the Thunderbolts, we got Fantastic Four, we got an animated Spider-Man show at the end of this month, which, let me know, do you want me to cover that? Is that something worth covering for the MCU? It might be the only show on the air up until the next show. I don't have the schedule memorized, but there is a slate, a pretty good slate of Disney Plus content along with those movies this year. So we got a lot to talk about. If I get 10 emails or 3 tips in the tip jar in the About section, I will release this episode early. I mean the next episode. I'm going to be releasing this one tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. at my time, Central. But however, if you want the finale early, we have to get like either, let's say 7 to 10 emails, just anything, say nice things, positive feedback, anything, and 1 to 2 to 3 tips. I mean, if it's one freaking tip, I'll let it count, okay? And by all means, send the email and don't send the tip. You know, it's no pressure on that. This has been Marvel Maniac, an MCU After Show, Moon Knight, Episode 5, The Asylum, a powerful episode. I'm looking forward to the finale next week, and I hope until I talk to you then, you have a wonderful week and a fresh, wonderful start to your new year. Happy New Year. I don't think I even said it, but Happy New Year. Happy New Year. I got a good feeling about the podcast. I got a great feeling about us as a community. We're going to grow, and I can't wait to meet any and all of you, and maybe a future Discord server or something along the lines of that. From my heart to yours, thank you for the love. Thank you for being here and listening. And I see that little core audience we got going, watching and listening almost every episode, like within the first few hours somehow of me posting it. Like, thank you. I'm so appreciative of anything you do to help the podcast. Listening is number 1. Rating it positively on your platform is number 2. And number 3 is treating yourself right by treating yourself to a great podcast like this. Obviously, I'm joking, but in a way, hey, this show looks good on you. I think we're going to have a good time here. A lot of things will progress. We'll witness the MCU together. We'll jump into the mutant saga. Let's just take it day by day. So until the ending of Moon Knight, next time, Avengers, disassemble.